All right, we're in Module 3, lesson number 2, and in this lesson we're going to clone a new demo. I just made a repository called Module 3 Demo Start, and in this repository it basically is going to go through how we're going to work things for the entire module for our demo. Okay, so we're going to start by going to code and clicking on the link. Okay, essentially it's the same link up here. And then we're going to close all of our projects in PyCharm. So we just go to File, Close Projects, and it will leave us with here. And here we want to say Clone Repository. We're going to paste in our repository, and we're going to give it a good name. Okay, our name goes here in the directory. Okay, and this is going to be C/S 4210 underscore mod 03 Marshall demo. All right, so I click clone, and it's going to say, make sure you trust the project. All right, so now it's cloned. I'm going to come over here, and let's just put this in the right size so it's all there. All right, now it's cloning. Everything's getting created. Okay, and it says we have no interpreter. Okay, just like normal, which means we don't have our virtual environment set up. Okay, but I have all the files that we need. Okay. So we come in here, we've got some new files, okay? And we're going to talk about those in a second. But I want to make sure I set up my virtual environment. So I'm going to come down here, no interpreter. I'm going to add a new local interpreter. And I like to make this a little bit bigger so I could see everything, okay? And I'm making sure that this is going into the Module 3 Marshall demo folder and that it's called VNV, and then I'm using the 3.12 Python or whatever the latest one is, okay? I click OK. And it's going to create that virtual environment for me. And you'll see a little VENV folder pop up here. If it pops up open, just make sure it closed so we don't accidentally put anything inside that file folder. Okay. All right. Now we go to our terminal, and the first thing we want to do is we want to do a pip install. Okay. So we'll do pip install. And I'm going to do a -R. That means read. And what do I want to read? I want to read this requirements document. Okay, because in that requirements document, it has everything that's been installed that I'm going to need for Module 3. Okay, so I'm going to say pip install requirements. And if I hit tab, it will auto-complete, and it will grab that. And it will install everything that's inside there so I can use it locally. Okay, so it's finishing up, everything's done, and it's been installed. Okay. All right, now the first thing I want to talk about is this new database.txt. Okay, inside this file earlier we grabbed the sample name. Okay, so we grabbed our table runners. Okay, and we turn it into a DBML. Okay, so you can just tell chat. You just give chat, hey, this is all the information, and make me a DBML document. Right. So we can just say this is DBML document. Now you're not going to use this for anything at all. Okay, I'm just going to be able to, like, this is just a text file, it's not used anywhere. But if I want to see what your database looks like, so if you have an error, I don't have to log into your database. I can just see this is what's inside your database. Okay, and I can see what you named your files, or sorry, what you've named your variables. Okay, column names, and what you named your actual table. Okay, and remember, we just copy that straight out of here. Now I did add a second table, and if I click down here, I can copy all of that table information. Okay, so I can go all the way to there, and I can go right into chat, and I can just say, make this a DBML, and I can just paste it in, and it's just going to give it to me real quick, and I can put that one in there also. So it's really good at making DBML files. Okay, there's my DBML file. It basically says this is the table name, sample name, sample size. Okay, all right. So that is my DB Connect. Oh no, sorry, that's my database document. Okay, now let's talk about the first file that we need to talk about is this new one is the DB Connect. Okay, when I open up the DB Connect and from the sample. Okay, from that one I downloaded. Here is where you're going to put in your host, your user, your password, and your database. Now, do not delete the quotes. It has to go inside the quotes. Okay, All right. I guess we should also go into Git and do a remove manage remotes and remove me from that remote. And we can go ahead and go to Git, and we can GitHub and share on there. And this is my demo. I'm going to keep it private. I'm going to click share. Okay. Now we're going to go into our Heroku thing, and we are going to grab the Module 3 demo. All right, so we're in here, Module 3 demo, and we're going to go to resources, and we're going to click on this. Now, what I'm going to do is just copy each one of these things right into right here. Okay, so I'm copying the first one. I select it, and I'm going to paste it right in here. Okay. Make sure that I don't have any spaces. That's perfect. Do the same thing for user. Okay, and do the same thing for password. Okay, and then do the same thing for database. All right, and that's what we need. That's our connection. So this is going to use a library called PyMySQL. It's going to grab the connection. It's going to go out to the internet. It's going to establish a connection to our database. That's what the dbconnect file does. Every time you start a new project, you need to update your database connection file. Okay, step 1, write that down. All right. Now, we have another file called, our init file right here. Okay, and we're going to be using a thing called blueprints, which we're going to talk about in the next lesson. Okay, but we need to make sure we register our blueprints. Actually, let's talk about them now since we're here already. So for a blueprint, I have a blueprint folder, and you notice this folder has this little tiny dot here, and this one doesn't have a dot. This little dot means that it's like an app folder. Okay, and that's because it has an init _init here. Okay, and there's nothing in this one. Do not put anything in this init file here. We just want this blueprints to be an app folder. Okay, but we do want this samples.py. This is our first blueprint. Okay, and this blueprint is going to tie directly to that table. Okay, so let's open it up, and this blueprint has everything we need for it to work. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about blueprints. The blueprint is a way for us to put all of our code into one spot for that's organized in a way. So it's an organized way to put our code, a lot of code, but that is only related to samples. Okay, so we start out at the top. We go samples is equal to samples. Okay, one of the big mistakes everybody's going to do is they're going to have these names not match up to each other, or they're going to try to add more stuff here. Okay, that's chat helping out a little bit. This is all you need: samples, blueprint, samples. Okay, and then this samples is going to be copied all the way down through the routes. Remember, in our other routes, we use the word app. Okay, but in samples, we're going to use the word, whatever we called our blueprint is what we call all the way down for our route. So we have 3 routes. I guess I should talk about the routes too. The routes that we're going to use, the first route is always our read. Okay, so our read means we're going to select all from the database table. Select all from samples. Goes out there. It grabs everything from samples. Okay, and it puts it into, it executes the cursor and it puts it into all, this one says all runners, but it really should be all samples. So we'll fix that. Okay, so it puts it into a bucket called all samples. And then that bucket is being rendered in the template. So it's going to go out and grab the HTML template, and it's going to pass this data right here. And I always like to keep these the same. All sample, all samples. So keep them the same. So it passes that variable out to there. Okay. So all this does is it comes down, it hits the first route. Okay. Called sample. So this route is called sample with this is all, these two are always called the same. These two are always called the same. Okay. All right. And then we hit our database connection and we create a cursor. Then it's not a post method. So it jumps all the way down and it executes the cursor that we created here. Okay. It says select all from samples. It goes and does that. Then it grabs all that data, puts it into all samples and sends it out to the template. Okay. Now let's take a look at our template. So if we go to our templates and go to samples, this is all that we need for samples. So if we come down, there's our all samples. We passed it out here, and it's going to use this little loop. It's going to say, give me this. This is an Excel spreadsheet. Okay. You know, everybody knows what an Excel spreadsheet is. And this is going to say, grab one row off that Excel spreadsheet and put it into this little tiny variable here. And this little variable is going to have 3 columns: the sample ID, the sample name, and the sample size. So sample, 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 all right here. These are the 3 columns. It's going to go through this loop, and it's going to send all those out into different rows from that all samples set that we brought in. Okay. And then from there, we have an update button and a delete button. Okay. That's all working pretty good. All right. So we have our samples and we have our samples HTML. We have to have both of those. Okay. And if we go to our samples.py, we have to have, that's because we have it here. Okay. Now, I think we're going to stop there because it's like about 10 minutes in. So we'll stop there, and in the next one we'll talk about the edit, the delete, and then delete too.